She hid her white wolf for 5 years, until they forced her to shift in front of the Lycan King. 5 years after her kingdom fell, Lyra was a ghost, the last white wolf heir, hiding as a lowly healer in the bramble pack. Her only law was never let the wolf out. She followed it perfectly, until she smelled blood in the blackwood. Her destiny changed. Hello, my lovely pack. Welcome back to the fire. For those just joining us tonight, I'm your introverted girl in the Moonshadow Tale Pack. If you're ready for a story where every touch is a risk and every secret has teeth, you're in the right den. Make sure you're subscribed and the bell is clicked. This tale is long, dark, and full of teeth, and I wouldn't want you to miss a single bite. Now, let the silence settle. Listen closely. Let's dive in. A Lycan warrior was dying against an ancient oak, torn armor, poison blackening his side. King Roan's own enforcer, his brother Cyrus. Every instinct told Lyra to run, but the healer in her knelt. Her fingers touched his wound. His hand shot out. Iron-strong fingers wrapped around her wrist. His eyes opened, storm gray, swirling with pain. Their eyes locked. And something in the world snapped. A silver thread pulled taut between their souls. She heard the word in her mind, mate. His eyes widened. He felt it too. Panic. She wrenched free, scrambling back. Wait, Cyrus rasped, but she was already running, crashing through the forest like prey. Time passed. Cyrus pushed himself up. His wound was closed, clean, expert. He looked at his empty hand, the one that had held her. Brought it to his face and inhaled. Winter mint, moonlight on fresh snow, and beneath it something ancient, pure, white. A slow, devastating smile touched his bloodied lips. He tilted his head back, and he didn't howl in pain. He howled in triumph. The sound was short, sharp, and devastatingly powerful. It wasn't a cry for help. It was a declaration, found. The bond became a live wire in Lyra's chest, a compass pointing back to him. Distant howls echoed, patrols. She crushed herbs, masking her scent with forest rot and decay. Don't be Lyra, be nothing. Meanwhile, Cyrus stood where he'd bled. Armor repaired, a pillar of polished violence. She's masking, he said, voice low and chilling, using the forest against us. His gaze sliced toward bramblepack smoke. Bring me their alpha. In the longhouse, Alfred, alpha of the brambles, trembled before him. A healer, Cyrus said. Young, female, skilled. He paused. Her eyes, tell me about her eyes. The intimate question stole the air. Alfred paled. I do not recall. Cyrus took one step forward, and released a fraction of his dominance. The air grew heavy. Alfred gasped. There is a girl, in the deep woods. I don't know her name. Truth and useless. Cyrus turned to leave. His boot crushed something. A single perfect moonleaf herb, the one she'd been harvesting. He picked it up, held it delicately. Got you, he whispered. A sudden blaring royal horn shattered the quiet. A messenger skidded in. Commander Cyrus! The king summons you, immediately. In the stone throne room, King Roan lounged on his jagged throne. Chasing ghosts, brother? Roan's voice was like grinding stone. While rivals sent weakness? Cyrus knelt. A lead on a rogue healer, my king. Roan took a slow sip of wine. Your howl last night sounded like possession, not duty. He leaned forward. Your personal mission ends. In 1 moon cycle, during the blood moon, we hold the bloodline scan, every pack. Every unmated omega shifts before my throne. Cyrus looked up. The unrest it will cause. It will cause obedience. Roan slammed his goblet down. And it will flush your healer into the open. His smile was cold, terrifying. Bring her to me at the scan, Cyrus. Let us all see what you've been sniffing after. The game was no longer Cyrus's. The decree was a cage being built. Lyra needed to vanish. Her price, 3 vials of moonflower elixir, a healer's masterpiece. Her target was Kale, the smuggler in a den called the Gutter's Howl. Kale was all sharp edges and sharper smiles. The price just went up, Kale said, his voice an oily rasp. Royal attention makes my risks palpable. I want the recipe, her mother's legacy, the last thing she owned. No, Lyra said. Kale shrugged. Then enjoy the bloodline scan, little mouse. She reached for the vials. The front door exploded inwards, wood splintering. Cyrus filled the shattered doorway. Hunter's leathers, storm gray eyes scanning the room. He didn't speak. He moved. A rogue beta stepped to block him. Cyrus's backhanded blow was a crack of thunder. The beta crumpled. Cyrus grabbed Kale by the throat, lifted him off the ground. Who bought escapes? Cyrus's voice was a deadly whisper. I don't know names, Cale choked. Cyrus's eyes glowed. A low, subsonic growl vibrated from his chest. The air grew heavy with the promise of the Lycan beneath. Cale's eyes darted, involuntarily, toward the back booths where Lyra hid. Cyrus dropped him, stalked to her empty booth, saw the leather folder, and beside it her old healer's satchel. He picked it up, brought it to his face, inhaled. His eyes closed, and on his face, not triumph, not fury, but anguish. Raw, heartbreaking. It lasted a second. He opened his eyes, the pain sealed away. Clear this filth out, he said, voice hollow. The den is closed. He walked out, her satchel clenched in his fist. Later, in her cellar, Lyra stood before a cracked mirror. For 5 years she'd avoided this. Tonight she didn't look away. Show me, she whispered. She reached inward, touched the bound wolf. In the mirror, her pupils flashed with silver fire. For a split second, a majestic, snarling white wolf stared back. She stumbled back. The vision was gone. But in her mind, where unbreakable chains had been, she felt it. One link splintered. The cage had a crack. King Roan calculated over a territory map. The scan is not to consolidate bloodlines, he said, voice calm and grinding. I am fishing. He traced Bramble territory. 5 years ago, intel suggested a white pop-up survived. A female. My brother's obsession is not a coincidence. Celine entered, Cyrus's second-in-command. A warrior of pure efficiency. This healer, Roan said, his tone paternal and deadly. She is a crack in the wall. An Omega's trick. She will make him hesitate. Make him choose. He leaned closer. At the scan, he will find her. When he wavers, you must be my certainty. Celine's jaw tightened. The crack will not spread, she said, voice tight and resolved. At the War Council, Roan watched Cyrus give clipped reports. This scan, Roan said. Do you see value in it, brother? Cyrus chose his words carefully. It will reveal sympathizers, smugglers. The healer I pursue has skill. Great value to the crown, if secured. A deflection. Roan's smile was glacial. He stood. Then let us make it a spectacle. Every soul from all 7 territories attends. No exceptions. He stepped down, circled Cyrus. You have 1 moon to find her, Roan said, his voice intimate and chilling. To prepare her. Bring her to the scan. Present her. He adjusted Cyrus's armor clasp, a gesture both familial and dominative. Let us all appraise her value. Together. The trap was displayed. A public command to deliver his own mate to the altar. Cyrus nodded, his face a mask of stone. Celine fell into step beside him as he left. We will secure this asset for the crown, Commander, she said, her voice firm. Cleanly. It sounded like support. It felt like a sentence. Alone, Cyrus stood at a window, clutching a single silvery thread from Lyra's satchel. Her hair. What have I done? He whispered, raw and shattered. Outside, distant chants of guards drilling for the scan began. Rhythmic, inescapable. The hunter had been ordered to leash his prey and deliver her to the altar. The king's design was perfect, and the clock had begun to tick. The blood moon drew closer. Lyra's cracked binding whispered to her in dreams. Cyrus's orders echoed in his mind like a death sentence. Lyra hid in a cave behind a waterfall, the last sacred place of the White Wolves. Here, her mother's spirit sometimes spoke in the mist. The silver thread in Cyrus's mind, the mate bond, was a constant pull. A whisper, an ache. He stood on a palace balcony, the moon a sharp sliver in the sky. He had a choice, obey his king or follow the bond. He chose the bond. Cyrus rode alone into the Blackwood. No armor, no guards. He followed the silver thread in his soul like a compass. He found her behind the waterfall. She was trying to light a fire, her hands shaking. He didn't approach like a hunter. He stood at the cave entrance, the waterfall roaring behind him. Your satchel, he said. Lyra froze. Her head snapped up. Her eyes, winter sky before snow, widened in terror. He took a slow step forward, not advancing, just being seen. You left this, he said, holding out the worn canvas bag. She didn't move. It still smells like you, he said, voice low. Winter mint. And something older. Stay back, she whispered. I'm not here to take you, he said. I'm here to warn you. She stared. The fire between them sputtered. The scan is a trap, Cyrus said. Roan want to trap you. He's using it to flush you out. And to break me. Then let me run, she said, voice breaking. Let me disappear. I can't, he said. And the pain in those 2 words was a physical thing. You are mine. I can't let you go. What will become of me if I let you go? Silence except for the waterfall. My family is dead because of him, Lyra said. Because of you too. I know, Cyrus said. You're his brother. Yes. Then why warn me? Cyrus took another step, close enough now that the bond between them hummed, a tangible vibration in the air. Because when you shift at the scan, he said, and everyone sees what you are, I won't be able to protect you. He let the word hand. You know what I am? Lyra asked, so shocked, but how? She stammered. Because I'm a Lycan, my bloodline is strong. Outsmells detect every smells. That's why you can't hide away from me for long, even my brother. Lyra's breath caught. So let me go. I won't bother the territory, she said. I want to survive, he said. Both of us, together. Lyra looked at him, really looked. Past the Lycan warrior, the king's enforcer. She saw the man beneath. The one who'd looked at her satchel with anguish. The one who'd come alone to warn her. Your brother will kill you for this, she said. He'll try, Cyrus said. She stood, approached him slowly. The bond pulled them together like magnets. What's your name? He asked. Lyra. He nodded as if storing a treasure. Cyrus. He reached out. Not to grab, to offer, his palm open. She stared at the hand for a moment. Lyra stared at his hand, at the man who was her fated enemy, her destined mate. She took his hand. The bond snapped into full blazing color, not just a thread, a river of silver light between them. Let's fight him. From the moment I set my eyes on you, I have decided to choose you over him. I don't want to be like him, Lyra. He killed his own fated mate, just to avoid any weakness, but I value what is called. Mate, so don't go, let's fight. I will teach you how to fight and how to use your power. You will attend the scan, and I will protect you. Are you ready to stand with me? Lyra nodded and felt some relieved in her chest. She found someone to protect and fight her battle with her. She must embrace him and accept him. Even her wolf can't wait to be let out. Because it being long, she shifted. For the next weeks, they met in secret. Cyrus taught Lyra how to wear her hidden power instead of fearing it. Your wolf isn't a curse, he said one evening as they sparred with wooden sticks. It's a crown. You just have to stop bowing to it. She swung. He blocked easily. You think like prey, he said. You need to think like a queen. I am a queen without a kingdom, she snapped, swinging again. He disarmed her with a twist. Then take mine. She stared at him, panting. Cyrus's expression was serious. When you shift at the scan, they will see a white wolf. A legend. A threat. But if you shift as my claimed mate, you become part of the royal line. You become untouchable. Claimed, she repeated, the word heavy. The bond is already there, he said. We just acknowledge it, publicly. What does that mean? She asked, though she suspected. His eyes held hers. It means I would stand beside you. Against my brother. Against the court. Against everything. Celine watched Cyrus's absences grow. She followed him once. Saw him meet the hooded figure in the woods. Saw the way he stood with her. Not as hunter and prey, but as equals. She reported to Roan. Your brother meets with her regularly, Celine said, standing stiff in the throne room. He trains her, they speak closely. Roan smiled. Perfect. Let him bind himself to her. Let him tie his fate to hers. Then, when I destroy her, he will break completely. You won't just exile her? Celine asked. Roan's smile vanished. The White Wolf line ends, permanently, and my brother learns his final lesson about loyalty. The night before the blood moon, Cyrus and Lyra stood at the waterfall again. Tomorrow, he said. She nodded, trembling. I need to claim you tonight, he said. Before the court, so tomorrow, when you shift, they see my mark on you. My protection. How? She whispered. He stepped closer. The old way. A blood vow. He drew a silver dagger, the ceremonial kind used for royal bonds. I, Cyrus of the Blackstone Lycans, recognize Lyra of the White Wolf line as my fated mate. My equal, my queen. He sliced his palm. Blood welled. Your turn, he said, offering the dagger. Lyra took it. Her hand shook. I, Lyra, last of the White Wolf line, recognize Cyrus as my fated mate. My protector, my king. She sliced her own palm. They pressed their wounds together. Blood to blood. The bond didn't just hum, it sang. A chorus of destiny. Cyrus's eyes glowed softly. It's done. Lyra felt the change immediately. Her hidden wolf didn't feel chained anymore. It felt acknowledged, waiting. What happens tomorrow? She asked. You shift, he said. You stand in your power, and I stand with you. And if your brother attacks? Then we fight, Cyrus said simply. Together. The day arrived. The great arena was packed with every wolf from all 7 territories. King Roan sat on a throne of obsidian, Selene at his side. Cyrus stood below in full commander armor, waiting. Lyra entered with the other Omegas, last and anonymous in the long line. Her heart hammered against her ribs. One by one, Omegas were called forward. They shifted. Brown wolves, gray wolves, black wolves, some strong, some weak, all bowing to the throne. Roan's eyes scanned the line. He knew she was here. He could feel it. Next, he called, voice echoing. Lyra's was pushed forward into the center of the arena, sand beneath her feet, thousands of eyes on her. Shift and present, Roan commanded. Cyrus met her eyes from across the arena. He gave a single, nearly imperceptible nod. Lyra took a deep breath. She reached for the binding in her mind, the one with the crack. And she didn't push it down. She tore it open. Light erupted from her. Not just light, moonlight made solid. A radiant silvery explosion that made the crowd gasp and shield their eyes. When it faded, a wolf stood in the sand. But not just any wolf. A white wolf. Larger than any Omega had a right to be. Coat like fresh snow under the moon. Eyes like polished silver. And around her neck, glowing faintly, the mark of a blood vow, Cyrus's claim. The crowd's murmur became a roar. Roan stood slowly, his face dark with fury. But before he could speak, Cyrus moved. He walked to the center of the arena, stood beside the white wolf, then he shifted too. His Lycan form was massive, onyx black fur, muscles like corded steel, eyes burning with storm fire. But he didn't face Lyra. He turned, and faced the throne. He placed himself between the white wolf and the king. A low protective growl rumbled through the arena. Not a challenge to Lyra, a warning to everyone else. Mine, the growl said. Touch her and die. Roan's hands clenched on his throne. Selene stepped forward, hand on her sword. The arena held its breath. The blood moon hung overhead, red as blood. The arena held its breath. 1,000 wolves stared at the impossible scene. The king's own brother, in Lycan form, standing between the throne and the legendary white wolf. Sound, a tense, humming silence. Then the scrape of a throne. King Roan rose slowly, his face a mask of frozen fury. Seize them, he said, voice deathly quiet. The command shattered the silence. Sound, chaos erupts. Roars, shouts, the scrape of steel. Royal guards surged forward from all sides. Cyrus's onyx Lycan form didn't wait. He moved. He was a whirlwind of black fury. One guard lunged. Cyrus's massive paw swatted him aside like a toy. Bones crunched. To me! Cyrus roared, the words a ground-shaking growl that vibrated in every chest. The white wolf, Lyra, leaped to his side. Her movement was fluid, graceful, deadly. A guard came at her with a net laced with silver. She dodged, pivoted, and her jaws closed on his arm. He screamed. They fought back to back, a dance of shadows and moonlight. Sound battle. Snarls, screams, clashing steel. Music, pounding, relentless drums. Roan watched from his throne, eyes cold. Take him alive, he ordered. The white wolf is expendable. Selene heard the order. Her loyalty to her king, to her commander, splintered. She drew her sword, the steel singing. She didn't join the guards. She cut through them, heading straight for Cyrus. Traitor! She screamed, voice raw. Cyrus turned just as her blade came down. He shifted just enough, human hand grabbing her wrist, Lycan strength stopping the strike cold. Their eyes met. Soldier to soldier, friend to friend. Selene, he growled, blood dripping from a gash on his shoulder. Don't. Choose your side, Cyrus. She spat, tears of fury in her eyes. Him or her? I have, he roared. He twisted her wrist. The sword clattered to the stone floor. He could have killed her then. One slash of his claws would have ended it. Instead, he shoved her back hard into the advancing guards. Remember that, he said, voice low. I spared you. He turned. Lyra was holding off 3 guards, but a 4th was coming from behind with a silver-tipped spear. Lyra, Cyrus bellowed. He leaped, a black shadow crossing the arena. His body collided with the spear wielder just as the thrust came. The spear grazed his side, silver burning, sizzling. Lyra saw it. Her white wolf let out a furious, echoing howl. Power, real, ancient power, radiated from her in a wave. It wasn't an attack. It was a command. For a heartbeat, every wolf in the arena, guard or not, felt it. The instinct to bow. They froze. It was all the opening they needed. Now! Cyrus barked. They broke for the eastern archway, the oldest, least guarded exit. Arrows whizzed past. One thudded into Cyrus's shoulder. He didn't slow. They crashed through the arch, into the cold night. Blood moon above, city streets below. 2 wolves, one black, one white, running as one. Behind them, the alarm horns began to blare. The safe house was a disused cellar beneath a tannery. The air stank of old leather and blood. They shifted back, collapsing against cold stone walls in human form. Lyra was trembling. Adrenaline crash. Her side bled from a shallow cut. Cyrus was worse. The silver burn on his side smoked faintly. The arrow wound in his shoulder oozed dark blood. He ripped the shaft out with a grunt. Finally, Lyra spoke, voice barely a whisper. "You're his brother." Cyrus looked at her, in the dim light from a single cracked window. His storm-gray eyes held raw, unshielded pain. "And you," he said, each word weighted, "are my mate." He paused, bloodied hand pressed to his wound. "And my queen." Outside, the horn stopped. A new sound took their place. Hunters, on their trail. Lyra's eyes widened. "They're coming." Cyrus pushed himself up, wincing. "We need to move, now." "But you're hurt." "Now," he said, the command in his voice absolute. He reached for her, his bloody hand finding hers. Their bond hummed, a weak but steady pulse between them. "They'll expect us to run to the woods," he said, mind already working. So we don't. We go deeper into the city, to the one place Roan would never think to look. "Where?" Lyra asked. Cyrus met her eyes, a grim, determined set to his jaw. "The temple of the moon goddess," he said. "The heart of his own capital. The last place a hunted white wolf should be." They were out of time. Cyrus pulled Lyra to her feet. "Stay close," he said. "And trust me." They moved toward the cellar's back exit, a rusted grate leading to the sewers. As Cyrus pried it open, Lyra looked back at the blood they'd left on the floor. Their blood, mixed, a king's brother, a white wolf queen, and a city of hunters closing in. The brothers' war had begun, and the first battle was already lost. All that remained was the run, the hide, the survive. They fled through the city's underbelly, 2 shadows moving through the dark. Cyrus's wounds bled freely, but his grip on Lyra's hand never faltered. They emerged near the temple district, not to the grand, guarded temple of the sun, Roan's symbol of power, but to a crumbling, overgrown ruin behind it. The old moon temple, Cyrus breathed, pushing aside thorny vines. Abandoned after the war. "No one comes here." But Lyra stopped, staring at the stone archway. Her heart began to pound, not from fear, but from memory. "I know this place," she whispered. She stepped forward, her hand tracing a faded carving of a howling wolf beneath a crescent moon. It felt warm beneath her fingertips. "How?" Cyrus asked, leaning heavily against the stone. "I dreamed it," she said, her voice distant. "All my life. I thought they were just dreams." She turned to him, her winter sky eyes wide with dawning understanding. "My mother said, if I was ever truly lost, to follow the moon's tear." She looked up. The blood moon hung directly above a crack in the temple's dome. A single beam of red light fell onto the stone floor, illuminating a hidden symbol, a silver tear. Lyra knelt, pressed her palm against it. A section of the floor slid away, revealing a staircase leading down into the earth. Cyrus stared. "A sanctuary." "A remembering," Lyra corrected softly. She helped him down the steps, into the darkness below. The chamber was not a cave. It was a cathedral carved from pale, glowing stone. Murals covered the walls, white wolves running under twin moons, Lycans and wolves side by side in an ancient alliance. At the center stood a statue of a magnificent white wolf, and beside it a Lycan warrior. Not fighting. Standing together, Cyrus sucked in a breath. This is from the first pact, before the divide, before the bloodshed. Lyra approached the statue. Her reflection in the polished stone floor shimmered. And then it moved. Not her reflection. A woman made of silver light stepped from the stone. Her hair was moonlight. Her eyes were Lyra's. "Daughter," the spirit said, her voice echoing not in the cavern, but in their souls. Lyra's breath caught. "Mother?" "An echo of her love," the spirit corrected gently. "Left here for when you were ready to hear the truth." Cyrus stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of Lyra, protective even now. The spirit's gaze softened. "Cyrus of the Blackstone line, you stand where your ancestor once stood, beside a white wolf queen, as it was meant to be." "What truth?" Lyra asked, voice trembling. "The truth of what you are," the spirit said. "You are not just an heir. You are not even just a white wolf." The spirit gestured to the murals. "You are the moon-touched, the one born once a century, when the twin moons align in grief. Your blood does not just carry royalty, it carries unity." Lyra shook her head. "I am an Omega. I have always been weak." "You were hidden," the spirit interrupted, not unkindly. "Your power bound not just to protect you, but to protect the world from a power it was not ready to see. An Omega's flag was the perfect disguise. Who would look for a queen among the powerless?" Cyrus's eyes widened. "Her scent. It was never Omega weakness. It was restrained power." "Yes," the spirit said. "And your rage, Cyrus, the Blackstone, Lycan fury that your brother wields as a weapon. It is not your true nature. It is a sickness that set in when the bond between our kinds broke. The moon-touched was born to heal that break, to remind the Lycans of their anchor, and to remind the wolves of their strength." Lyra stared at her hands. "How?" "You must fully unbound your wolf," the spirit said. "Not just shift. Merge with her. Become the queen you were born to be. And you," she looked at Cyrus, "must be her anchor. Your bond is not an accident. It is the pact reborn. Your soul steadies hers. Her light heals your shadow." Cyrus's jaw tightened. "Roan, his rage, his cruelty. Is the sickness amplified by a throne?" the spirit said. "Lyra's presence alone weakens it. Her full power could break it." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness but of furious, righteous grief. "He killed them. My parents. My pack. For this? For a prophecy? For fear," the spirit whispered. "Fear is the most fertile ground for tyranny. He feared the unity you represent, the end of his divided rule. To avenge them, Lyra, you must not become him. You must become what he fears most, a true queen." She began to fade, her light dimming. "The ritual is the soul gaze," she said, her voice growing distant. "Wolf to wolf, soul to soul. You must see each other fully without shields. It is intimate. It is vulnerable. It is the only way." As she vanished, two things appeared on the stone floor before them. A ceremonial silver dagger, and a white lily that glowed with inner light. "The tools of the gaze," Cyrus said quietly. "My father spoke of it. A bonding of rulers." Lyra picked up the lily. It was warm. "If we do this, I will have the power to face him." "We will," Cyrus corrected. He picked up the dagger. "But once we begin, we cannot stop. And we will be defenseless." Their eyes met. The bond between them pulled taut. Outside, far above, they heard it. Celine's voice echoed faintly from the temple ruins above. "Search every stone!" "He's wounded. She's untrained. They cannot have gone far." They were out of time. Cyrus held out his hand. "Do you trust me?" Lyra looked at the dagger, at the lily, at the man who had betrayed his blood for her. She took his hand. "Show me how," she said. They knelt facing each other in the center of the chamber. The red light of the blood moon through the crack above painted them in crimson and silver. Cyrus pricked his palm with the dagger. Let a drop of blood fall onto the lily's petals. "My soul to yours," he said, voice steady. "My anchor to your storm." Lyra did the same. Her blood, silver-tinged, mingled with his on the flower. "My light to your shadow," she whispered. "My truth to yours." They placed their bloodied palms together and let go. Their wolves emerged, not in the chamber, but in a shared moonlit clearing of the soul. Cyrus's Lycan, majestic and dark. But its eyes were no longer just fierce, they were weary, haunted by years of violence carried out in his brother's name. Lyra's white wolf was not small or bound. She was vast, radiant, and her eyes held not just power, but a deep grieving love for a lost family, a stolen home. They approached each other, nose to nose, and they saw. Lyra saw Cyrus's childhood, a younger brother following a charismatic, cruel older sibling wanting approval, slowly realizing the price of it. She saw his loneliness, his silent descent. Cyrus saw Lyra's past, the warmth of her pack. Her mother's laugh, The night it was all torn away. The years of hiding, the constant fear, the strength it took to keep kindness alive in a heart that had every reason to harden. They saw each other's fears, their shames, their hopes, and in the seeing, the bond didn't just strengthen, it transformed. It became a living bridge between two halves of a broken world. In the physical world, light began to spiral from their joined hands, silver and black, weaving together. Lyra's back arched. Her bones began to glow. She wasn't shifting. She was transforming, becoming something the world hadn't seen in a century. But just as the light reached its peak, Celine's voice, now clear and cold in the cavern entrance above the staircase. There, in the light, for the king! Arrows rained down. Cyrus's eyes snapped open, still locked in the gaze, still connected, but his body moved on instinct. He threw himself over Lyra, taking an arrow in the back. He didn't cry out. He looked down at her, their faces inches apart. The ritual's energy still crackling around them, incomplete. "Don't stop!" he gritted out, blood on his lips. "Finish it. Become what you are." Lyra's eyes blazed with silver fire. The power was right there. She could feel it, the full might of the moon touched, waiting to be claimed. But to reach for it now, with Cyrus shielding her, vulnerable. To finish, she would have to let go of him, and Selene was already leaping down the stairs. Sword drawn, her eyes burning with betrayal and duty. The ritual hung by a thread. Power within reach, an enemy at the door, an arrow in his back, a sword at their throats. And the ritual, the fragile, beautiful bridge between their souls, hovering on the edge of completion. Cyrus's blood dripped onto Lyra's face. His body was a shield, his eyes locked on hers. "Don't. Stop," he ground out again, every word a pain. Lyra could feel it, the vast moon-drenched power waiting at the edge of her spirit. To reach for it, she'd have to let go of him, step out from his protection, become vulnerable in the moment she became invincible. Celine's voice cut through the humming air. "Get up, Cyrus," she snarled, sword pointed at his neck. "Step away from her. It's over." Lyra saw it then, in the flicker of Celine's eyes. Not just duty, heartbreak. She wasn't just following Roan's order. She was watching the commander she respected choose a stranger over everything. "Celine?" Cyrus rasped, not turning, his gaze still on Lyra. "Look at her. Really look. What do you see?" "I see the thing that's making you betray your blood," Celine shouted. Lyra made her choice. She didn't push Cyrus away. She pulled him closer. Her hand, still pressed to his, tightened. Her other hand came up to cradle his wounded face. "We finish it together," she whispered. "Right now." She closed her eyes. And she let go, not of him, but of her last fear. The cavern vanished. The arrow in Cyrus's back pushed itself out and clattered to the stone. The wound knitting closed. Celine stumbled back, the light too bright to look at directly. "What is this?" she whispered, her sword arm trembling. The soul gaze reached its peak. The final barrier around Lyra's wolf didn't break. It dissolved. Lyra opened her eyes. They were no longer winter sky blue. They were solid, glowing silver. Power radiated from her in gentle, undeniable waves. She stood, and Cyrus stood with her, their hands still joined. His wounds were healed. His eyes were clear, the storm in them calmed to a steady, sure gray. He looked at her, and a look of awe crossed his face. "Lyra," he breathed. She turned to Selene. Lyra didn't snarl. She didn't shift. She simply commanded. "Lower your sword," she said, and her voice was different. It held echoes. It was her voice and her mother's, and the voice of every white wolf queen who had come before. It wasn't a request. It was the moon asking the tide to turn. Celine's fingers spasmed. The sword clattered to the stone. She didn't do it out of fear. She did it because the voice spoke to a part of her, soul so deep and forgotten. She hadn't known it existed, the part that remembered the pact, the part that yearned for the unity she saw in that shared vision. "What are you?" Celine whispered, her defiance crumbling into confusion. "The future," Cyrus answered, his voice strong beside Lyra. "The one we were promised." Lyra took a step forward. The very cavern seemed to lean in, the glowing stones pulsing in time with her heartbeat. "He lied to you, Celine," Lyra said, her silver eyes holding the warrior's gaze. "He lies to everyone. The division, the rage, it's a sickness, and I am the cure." Celine looked from Lyra's majestic, terrifying calm to Cyrus's healed wounds, to his face which no longer held the grim tension of a soldier, but the resolve of a king. Her loyalty, once an unshakable pillar, cracked. But before she could speak, a new sound came from above. A shadow filled the entrance. King Roan descended the final steps, his own Lycan guards filing in behind him. He wasn't in armor. He was in rich, dark robes. He looked utterly at ease. He stopped, taking in the scene. Selene, disarmed and shaken. Cyrus, whole and standing with Lyra, and Lyra herself, eyes burning with newborn power. Roan's cold smile returned. "How theatrical," he said, his voice dripping with amused contempt. "The lost heir finds her sparkle. My brother plays the noble turncoat. It would be moving if it weren't so pathetically naive." He took a step closer, his gaze fixed on Lyra. "You think a light show and pretty words change anything?" he asked. "Power isn't about what you are, girl. It's about what you're willing to do, and I am willing to do anything." He nodded to his guards. They raised crossbows, not loaded with ordinary bolts, with silver-tipped wolfsbane-soaked bolts, aimed not at Lyra, at Cyrus. "The bond is sweet, isn't it?" Roan mused. "I felt it snap all those weeks ago, so I had my alchemists prepare a little gift. A bolt to sever a soul link. It won't kill him. It'll just unmake what you just made. Leave him an empty shell." I wonder, Moon touched. "Can you rule alone?" Lyra's silver glow flickered, not with weakness but with fury. Roan's smile widened. "Ah, there's the temper. There's the wolf. Now we see the truth." He raised his hand, ready to drop it. Cyrus moved to step in front of Lyra again. But this time Lyra's hand shot out. She stopped him. She looked at Rowan, and for the first time, she didn't see the king who murdered her family. She saw a sick, scared man clinging to a crumbling throne. Her voice when she spoke was quiet. "Final. You don't get to touch him," she said. "Ever again." Rowan laughed. "And how will you stop me?" Lyra didn't answer with words. She tilted her head back, and she howled. The cavern shook. Stone dust rained down. The guards staggered, their crossbows wavering, and from the world above an answer came. Not one howl, hundreds. Wolves from the surrounding forests, from the hidden corners of the city, from packs who had long bowed to Roan out of fear. Their voices rose in a chaotic, beautiful chorus, answering the call of their true queen. Roan's smile vanished. His eyes widened with the first flicker of real, primal fear. The power was awake. The pack was listening, and the king was no longer the strongest beast in the forest. The king's command to fire was swallowed by the echoing howls of a waking world. Lyra moved not with the speed of a wolf, but the certainty of a force of nature. She stepped in front of Cyrus, her silver eyes blazing, and simply raised her hand. The silver-tipped bolt stopped in midair, an arm's length from her chest, vibrating as if caught in invisible ice. Roan stared, his cold composure cracking into disbelief. Lyra closed her fist. The bolts shattered into metallic dust. "The old magic dies with you," Roan snarled, drawing his own sword, a black, serrated blade that hummed with dark energy. "Guards, kill the girl! Take my brother alive!" His elite Lycan guards surged forward, but they weren't the only ones moving. Selene, her face a war of duty and dawning truth, turned. She didn't raise her sword against Lyra. She placed herself between the guards and the staircase exit. "No," she said, her voice ringing clear. "You will not pass." A guard sneered. "Traitor!" he lunged. Selene moved with lethal grace, disarming him, her boot to his chest sending him sprawling. "I am finally loyal to what matters," she declared. Lyra's answering howl had been a spark to tinder. In the city, in the fields, wolves who had answered her call now turned on Rowan's enforcers. The rebellion was not organized. It was organic. A dam breaking. Packs long suppressed finding their fangs at the same moment. The king's forces were trained, armed, and ruthless. But the rebels had something new. A song in their blood. The Moontouched's call. In the cavern it was a deadly dance. Roan's remaining guards fought Selene at the stairs. Cyrus faced two others, his movements efficient, powerful, but different. He wasn't fighting with rage. He was fighting with purpose. To protect, to build. Lyra stood facing King Roan. He was a master warrior. He came at her, his dark blade a blur. She dodged, not shifting, her body moving with an eerie, fluid grace. The power within her wasn't just for show. It guided her steps, slowed time just enough. "You are a symbol!" Roan spat, pressing his attack. "Symbols burn," He feinted, then struck not at her, but at the glowing mural of the first pact. His blade bit into the ancient stone. A shockwave of wrongness pulsed through the cavern. Lyra gasped, feeling the desecration like a blow to her own soul. Roan laughed, sensing a weakness. "You are tied to this dead history." "I am the future." Lyra looked at the defaced mural, at the cracked image of unity, and she made her second choice of the night. She stopped fighting like a queen protecting her past. She started fighting like a mother protecting her future. She let her human form fall away. The shift was instantaneous. Where Lyra stood now stood the white wolf, but not as before. She was larger, her coat blazing with captured moonlight, her eyes twin silver suns. Around her paws, frost spread across the stone. She was majestic, terrible, beautiful, and she was angry. Roan, for the first time, took a step back. She didn't pounce. She advanced, each step methodical. The air grew cold. He shifted then, into a massive grizzled Lycan, his fur the color of dried blood, his eyes burning with corrosive gold fury. The two alphas faced each other in the sacred cavern, not just wolf and Lycan, not just niece and uncle, but two futures, one of divided fear, one of united strength. They clashed. It was a brutal, primal battle. Roan fought with the dirty tactics of a tyrant, going for the eyes, the joints aiming to cripple and shame. Lyra fought with clean, devastating power, each blow meant to disarm, not destroy. Near the stairs, Cyrus disarmed his final opponent, slamming the man's head against the wall. He turned, chest heaving, to see the titanic struggle. He moved to intervene. "No!" Lyra's voice echoed in his mind through their bond. "This is mine. He took my family, my home, my name. This is my fight." Cyrus halted. He trusted her, but his whole body was tensed, ready to spring if she faltered. Roan was stronger, more experienced. He got past Lyra's guard, his claws raking deep across her shoulder. Silver blood, not red, welled up. She stumbled. Roan reared up for a killing blow, and in that moment, Lyra didn't look at his claws. She looked into his furious golden eyes, and she saw it, deep beneath the rage, a tiny, terrified pup, believing the only way to be safe was to be the most monstrous thing in the room. She didn't strike back. She dropped her guard, and she howled again. But this howl wasn't a call to war. It was the howl from the soul gaze, the sound of unity, the memory of the pact. It was filled with the warmth of shared fires, the safety of the pack, the joy of the hunt under twin moons. It was the sound of everything Roan had spent his life destroying. The sound hit him like a physical wave. He flinched. His killing strike faltered. The corrosive fury in his eyes flickered, and for a split second, there was only confusion and pain. It was the opening Cyrus needed. He didn't attack. He moved between them, facing his brother in his own Lycan form. "It's over, Roan." Cyrus's voice was a low, steady growl echoing in the chamber. "You've lost. Not to her strength, to your own emptiness." Roan snarled, turning his fury on his brother. "You weak, sentimental fool. You betray your blood for a fairy tale." "I am saving my blood from becoming a curse," Cyrus said. He didn't attack. He began to circle, speaking, his words as much a weapon as his fangs. "Do you remember the willow tree by the river? Where you taught me to skip stones? You were patient. You laughed when I failed." Roan blinked, thrown. "What?" "You remember Father's temper, the way he ruled with fear. You swore to me you'd be different." "We'll be better, Cy," you said. Cyrus's voice cracked. "When did you stop trying to be better? When did fear become all you had?" With every word, Cyrus stepped closer, not as a combatant, but as the little brother who still remembered the man before the monster. Roan's snarls grew less certain. His defensive stance wavered. He was being defeated not by force, but by a memory he'd tried to bury. Lyra, bleeding silver, watched. She saw Cyrus do what she could not. He fought for his brother's soul, not his life. Finally, Roan stood panting, surrounded by his defeated guards, by Celine's unwavering stance, by his brother's pity, and by the luminous, forgiving presence of the white wolf whose family he'd slaughtered. The fight drained from him, not in surrender, but in a profound, terrifying exhaustion. His Lycan form shrank away. He was just a man again, kneeling on the cold stone, head bowed. "Kill me," he whispered, the words hollow. "It's what I deserve." Lyra shifted back to human form, wincing from her wound. She walked forward past Cyrus and stood before the broken king. "No," she said, her silver eyes dimming to their steady winter sky blue. "Death is a mercy you denied my parents. You don't get mercy. You get justice. You will live. You will see the world you tried to burn. Heal without you." She looked at Selene. "Take him. Imprison him in the sunless cells. Let him hear the howls of the united packs. Let that be his sentence." Weeks later, under the soft light of the twin moons, one silver, one gold, the entire territory gathered in the great field below the palace. The scars of rebellion were healing. Lycans and wolves worked side by side to clear the debris. A simple platform of woven branches and living wood had been built. No throne of stone. Lyra stood there, dressed not in silks, but in simple gray leather, her shoulder bandaged. Beside her stood Cyrus in the unadorned tunic of a warrior, not a prince. Before them, every pack, Alpha, Beta, Omega, stood mingled, a sea of faces watching. A smith, an old Omega from the Bramble Pack, came forward. In his hands was a crown, not of gold or jewels. It was woven from white ashwood and strands of pure silver, forged in the fires of the ruined temple. It was simple, strong, alive. He did not give it to Lyra. He gave it to Cyrus. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Cyrus took the crown. He turned not to the people but to Lyra. And then, before the entire gathered nation, the Lycan prince, the victor, the king's brother who had led the rebellion, he knelt. He looked up at her, his storm-gray eyes clear, full of a love that had overturned a kingdom. "Lyra of the White Wolf line," his voice carried steady and sure. "Moon-touched, healer, my mate, my queen." He raised the crown. "The throne is not mine to take. It is yours to claim. And my place?" He smiled, a true, unburdened smile. "Is at your side." He placed the crown upon her head. Lyra felt the weight of it. Not heavy, right. Tears traced clean lines down her face. She did not see the crowds then. She saw her mother's smile, her father's proud nod. She saw the future from the soul gaze, shimmering into being. She reached down, took Cyrus's hands, and lifted him up. "Cyrus of the Blackstone line," she said, her voice ringing with new authority. "My anchor, my protector, my king." She did not have a crown for him. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his forehead. Where her lips touched, a faint silver mark, a crescent moon, glowed softly against his skin. His own Lycan mark, a cluster of stars, glowed in answer on the back of her hand where he held it. They turned hand in hand to face their people, and together they tilted their heads back, and they howled, one by one, then in waves, then in a roaring, joyful tide. Every wolf and Lycan in the field joined them. The sound was not of conquest, but of homecoming. It shook the leaves from the trees and rose to meet the twin moons. And so the White Wolf took her throne, not with claws of vengeance, but with hands held open. The healer became the queen. The weapon became the king, and the howl that began with two hearts became the song of a new world.